This is the Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 meeting of the Berlin Economic Development Committee. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference or phone only. So please be aware that other participants may be able to see you and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I'm going to confirm the meeting members right now. So I am Keith Susi, the EDC member. And members, when I call out your name, please respond in an affirmative. We have Peter Hoffman, the EDC chair.
I'm here.
And Paul Anderson, EDC member.
I'm here.
And Jason Rawwell, EDC member as well.
Here, present.
Excellent. And we have some guests today. And I'm not sure I have everybody, but I know Matt Senni from Riverbridge is here. And he's connecting his audio, it looks like. Can you hear us, Matt? You can wave to us. Maybe not. And we have Jalen Rowe, who's a candidate for state rep.
Hello.
Hi, Jalen.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So,
Are we
is that the
expecting
end of
anybody
the,
else, Peter?
pardon me?
Are we expecting anybody else? Is Jeff Green going to be here or not?
Jeff
heard?
Green will come sometime between 6 and 6:30. So we
Okay.
should go. He was squeezing us in. We can continue.
With
is
the
that the
quorum
end
of the
of this
board
day?
present, I call the meeting to order at 6:03. And now we're good to go. Sorry.
All
We're
right.
good.
So I know Matt has a short leash time-wise. First off, can you hear us, Matt? And we cannot hear you.
No, we can't.
Okay, maybe, no, you can't. Okay, so since you can't be heard, maybe you can resolve that. Can you hear us? Wave if you can hear us. Excellent. So if you could work on that perhaps with your wife again, and we'll have Jalen chat with us a little bit first. So Jalen, the floor is yours. If you'd like to introduce yourself, say what you'd like, explain your thoughts.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation to come. I'm Jalen Rowe. I live in Northborough. I am running for state rep in Berlin, along with 5 other towns. I launched my campaign in November. I live in Northborough with my husband and 2 children. Prior to launching my campaign, I had a socially responsible business called Trendy Napkin. We sold products with inspiring quotes and donated a percentage to different charities. In addition to that, I'm finishing up my MBA at Babson right now. I have my degree in political science and international affairs. My father owns a small business as well. So small businesses are near and dear to my heart. So I actually heard Peter at the coffee talks a few months ago. And so I'm curious as to how the businesses in Berlin are doing. How were they prior to COVID-19 and how are they doing now and what the state could do to help?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question. I'm not sure we know the answer. Jason is a bigger business outside of town, and none of us run businesses in the most conventional sense. Anybody want to address that? All right, I'll address it a little bit more. First off, I don't think we know the impact except from an external standpoint. I don't think any of us know, but it can't be pretty. And if Matt comes online and we can hear him, we'll be able to hear about Riverbridge. You're familiar with Riverbridge, Jalen?
A little bit.
So I'll have Matt fill you in on his Riverbridge development. It's a pretty large development in town, but we'll have to wait till he's heard. But Jeff is on the line. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Can't hear you.
Can't hear Jeff
Oh,
either.
there we go. Maybe not. So I'm not sure. We've got 2 businesses, Matt Riverbridge and Jeff Green, the branch manager for Clinton Savings Bank, on the line. They would better answer this than us because I don't think we're capable of that. What business does your dad run? What kind of a business?
My father?
Yes.
Oh, it's a ink manufacturing business in Connecticut, in Wallingford, Connecticut.
Got it. And what is the socially responsible business that you ran or run?
It was called Trendy Napkin. So we sold products like journals and shirts and mugs and totes And we also sold products made from women in rural areas of the world, from Syrian refugees to women in Liberia. And then we donated a percentage for the first 2 years to help refugee women overseas become self-sufficient. And then last year it was to Girl Up, which is part of the United Nations. So that's what I
Are you
did.
still doing that?
I'm not. So I'm committing to running my campaign full time, and I'm committing to being a full-time legislator if elected.
And what's your, I think we need to hear the pitch of what your background is, why you're electable and why you're
Oh.
the right choice. Or
Um,
some background about, you know.
So I've been a commissioner for the Metro West Commission on the Status of Women, advocating for legislation related to women and girls for many years. And so that was my introduction to the State House. I have my degree in political science and international affairs from Northeastern. I have seen the 26 towns that are in our district in the 2 cities, and saw how different legislators work and their work ethic. And I think the district certainly deserves a full-time legislator. And that's why I've committed to campaigning full-time. I think that there's a lot of people who have not felt like their voice has been heard. And I want to be an accessible legislator if elected. There's a lot of concerns. In the past 5.5 months that I've been campaigning, I did have the opportunity to host meet and greets, and I had the opportunity to do it in Berlin. I visited 19 Carter a few times. I hosted a meet and greet at the Village Cafe. And so it's been a wonderful opportunity to listen to people and meet people. And I certainly think that our small businesses need more support. Our education system, I have 2 children in the public school system, and so definitely providing more funding for our schools, but also innovation, allowing schools to be innovative. I'm a huge supporter of having entrepreneurship programs in our public school system. So I hope.
Okay, thank you. Any, Paul, Keith, Jason, any of you guys, or Jeff, of course? Matt, if we can get your audio, have any questions for Jaylon?
Try the regular mic. Is this working better?
Yeah, I
Oh,
can
yeah,
hear you
now
now,
we
Jeff.
can hear you, yeah.
Apparently just the headphones weren't working.
Details.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have any questions for Jaylon?
I'm sorry, I was more focused on trying to get the audio to work at the moment, but
Paul, Keith, Jason? Jason's
Jason,
son?
who's your partner?
Jason's son.
Yeah, I have a visitor that wanted to see what's going on here.
Very cool. What's your name?
Graham.
What is it?
Graham.
Graham?
Got it. Graham, do you have any questions of of Jaylon?
Do you have any
She's
questions?
running for office. She
No.
could be an influential person.
Okay.
So I guess no one else has any questions?
I don't have questions for you, Jalen, but I will say that I'm excited to see your enthusiasm and your background, and I think that a small town like Berlin could really benefit from you. So, welcome.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you
Wish you
very
well.
much. I appreciate that.
All right,
And I don't know that we ever had a chance for Jeff to respond to Jalen's question about how the state can help small businesses in Berlin, and what Jeff's take is right now, how our small businesses are doing, including the bank.
Thanks,
So-
Paul. Good point.
Yes. So many of the small businesses are remaining open with as much minimal contact as they can. But, you know, there's garages that are still open most of the time. The bank is still open, although only through the drive up. The Berlin General Store is still open. There's a lot of takeout from restaurants going on. The new payroll protection program that the government just reapproved has a lot of funds that are going out, some of them locally, many of them all over the place. Clinton Savings Bank has actually so far approved 24 million in small loans for payroll protection. But we're dealing with this as it comes out, so it's very new, and we're within the first 2 days of the program being announced, we had over 90 inquiries just from our local 6 branches. So
And those are qualified inquiries, folks that are businesses with you, or just
Many
anybody?
of them are, not all of them. Um, but we were inputting applications as fast as we could get the backup documentation, and it was within 2 days that it was shut off from us. So
So did you meet people or do this online, or how did you input those applications, the data? Where did it come from?
most of them were, so the ones that were able to get approved quickest were the ones that had commercial relationships already, because we already had all the backup documentation from their existing loans. We just needed the application, which could be emailed or faxed or dropped off at a branch. There are several others that just came in with their taxes and the application, which you could get right off of the SBA website, or which is what we were directing to people at first. Now we actually have a link set up on our website so that we have a contact set up, so you can input directly through the website, and then somebody will reach back out to you within 2 days. But
So Jalen, has Jeff addressed your question, sort of, kind of?
Sort of, kind of. I have more questions. And I'm happy to call you if now's not the appropriate time. Oh, I'm happy.
No, no,
I'll do my best.
Would you be able to kind of share the demographics of the businesses of the 90 inquiries? Like, are they restaurants? Are they small, medium, large businesses? How many do they employ?
So I can't give you our numbers, but I do have numbers from the government here that I printed
Okay.
out. So Massachusetts actually received $10 billion in PPP loans.
Can you put the picture back up? I can't.
So Matt, we are overhearing your background noise.
There
Go
was,
ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
of those, 13% went to construction companies, 12% went to professional, scientific, and technical services, 12% went to manufacturing, 11% went to healthcare, 9% went to accommodation and food service, 9% went to retail trade, 5% wholesale trade, and it goes down from there. But
Okay.
Actually, Jeff, can I ask you some questions as well? So out of that 24 million, what percentage of that went to your existing businesses that had an existing line of credit with you versus the small businesses that came in?
I can't actually answer that. Even if I could answer that, I couldn't give you statistics on our customers for privacy issues. But I only know the ones that came through Berlin, and I know, I had 7 or 8 applications that went in. I know 3 of them that I got approved, and I don't honestly know the full number of what did get approved and what didn't already, even through me, because it's handled at the commercial loan level.
Sure. So were they approved before the funding ran out, and did they receive funds, or are they in
Yes.
this next wave? They were.
The
Okay.
ones that have already been approved have received funds, or will receive funds by the end of the week.
But those are mostly larger commercial enterprises, or you're saying that some of the smaller
Some of them are
businesses did as
small
well?
Berlin businesses.
Excellent. Okay, because on the streets, I haven't heard anything like that so far. I'm part of a few committees that are Berlin as well as surrounding areas, and approximately, I was doing the math earlier, about 25 to 30 people I've been in touch with on webinars and in person, and it seems the pattern is nobody that did not have a pre-existing line of credit with any bank has received any funds yet that I've spoken with personally. So that's encouraging to hear that it's happening. It's just maybe not as prevalent yet.
It was definitely easier for customers that already had lines with us, because one of the documentation needs was 2 years of tax returns. When you have an existing line, you get tax returns every single year. So we have those on file already for those customers. So they didn't have to pull any documentation together other than their payroll information and the application. So it was very, very quick for them. And just the day or two that it took people to get documentation together was enough for the funds to run out.
So Jeff and I spoke offline, and correct me if I understood this incorrectly, Jeff. Only your commercial customers were qualified by the bank to make application through Clinton. Do I have that right? Or if I don't, can you clarify that for the group?
In the first couple days, we were taking applications from anyone who had them. When the volume was just so much that we weren't going to be able to keep up, we limited it to people who, businesses that had accounts with us or loans with us. They did not have to have a commercial loan with us in order to apply, but they did need to have a commercial relationship of some sort.
This is Matt Senni. Have I been put back into the meeting?
You're in.
You are here,
You're
Matt.
in.
Riverbridge was able to get 3 small loans through Bay State with the PPP program. They've all been funded. We didn't have lines of credit with Bay State, but we did have mortgages and a banking relationship with these people, and we were able to just hit a button because we already had our tax returns done, which I think helped facilitate things. So we're kind of a success story, and I think a couple of other businesses, I won't speak for them directly, at Riverbridge have also been helped out by the PPP program.
Excellent. Matt, can you give us a background of the scale of your business? How many employees do you have? And
The liquor store, and the cafe have about 12 full and part-time employees. Riverbridge is kind of funny. Riverbridge realistically, pays me and my bookkeeper. My brother bills me for his legal work as an outside person, but frankly, I'm about the only salaried employee down there at Riverbridge, and we hire everybody. We hire companies to do most of our work. But
So they're on
people think we're kind of a
1099s?
big business, but we're not.
Is it W-2 or 1099s?
It's W-2 for me, and most businesses give us a 1099, I guess. I don't, they have to have, all we care about is that they have certificates of insurance. They send us invoices. If we agree with the amount, we pay them. Right. The key for us always is to make sure everybody's insured down there.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we were pleased with the initial PPP program, and I did work with my tenants. I was in constant contact with them, trying to push the needle a little bit and tell them what we were sharing stories of what was going well and what wasn't going well.
Jaylon, sorry.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Have there been businesses that have gone bankrupt since COVID-19 that you know of that have shut down permanently?
I'm inclined
well,
to think
not
that's none, because the courts are closed except for emergencies.
So we don't know. They're closed, but we don't know if they've gone bankrupt or not.
Okay. Those were my questions.
Okay.
By way of an update, we've kept the liquor store open with our manager, and we've let all the other employees go, and we have closed down the cafe.
When did you close, and how long do you expect to close for?
Is it 2 weeks? It may be 2 weeks yesterday that we closed down the cafe. And I've told Jennifer that I don't anticipate opening till May 15th. I just don't think, I could change my mind, but I just don't think we're ready for the interaction on it, with 100 customers and 3 people working within 3 feet of each other to be safely open for business as the world is today. Liquor store is a little bit different. You got one person behind a counter protecting herself, one or two customers come in at a time, kind of a nice, steady, inconsistent pace, if you will. So I feel very comfortable keeping the liquor store open, but the cafe, I just didn't want a bunch of cases coming out of my cafe or people that were in my cafe saying, well, maybe I was in the cafe and got sick. I just didn't want to risk that.
Right. Well, that's unfortunate, but reality.
It is. I'm looking forward to reopening. We'll do a little rebranding. We'll tweak the menu a little bit. New surge of energy. I don't think it's the end of the world. We'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
Aren't
bigger
you?
pictures, who knows?
So Jalen, why don't you stay on to as long as you'd like and we'll continue the meeting. How's
Okay,
that?
thank you.
All right. So Jeff, I know you don't have a ton of time. Is there anything more you could share with us about bank operations, information
Um,
you've learned, heard, et cetera?
So there, on top of the payroll protection program, we've also had a lot of inquiries about the stimulus relief checks. The first round of checks did go into direct deposits on April 15th. It was about 40% of Americans that received that first round. It's $1,200 for individuals earning up to 75,000, 2,400 for couples up to 150,000 with a sliding scale up to 199,000, and then $500 for dependents under, I forget what the age cutoff was, but it was children under a certain age. There are a few exclusions, like if a college age child can be claimed as a dependent, they don't get the stimulus check. But overall, that process has started. We get people calling all the time to find out if they've received their stimulus package, and we've been directing them to the IRS website. There's a Get My Payment tool that will actually track when you should be getting your payment. It isn't always 100% reliable, because if it doesn't know, it just tells you it can't process at this time, which it does for, I couldn't tell you what percentage, but at least my personal payment is in that it can't tell me when it's coming.
So what is the name of that program you're referring to? I'm not
It's the
familiar.
Corona Tax Relief and Economic Impact Payment.
What's it called again, Jeff? I missed the beginning.
Coronavirus Tax Relief and Economic Impact Payments.
That's that one-time payment to all those individuals that you described. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we've also seen a lot of people getting fraudulent emails and such, trying to infect computers with information about coronavirus. And basically just always beware of any email that you didn't expect to get. Don't click on links, don't open attachments if you don't know who it's from.
Have you been approached by some businesses that you just couldn't help that were your customers?
So there are definitely businesses that have applied that have not been approved yet. With the bill passing today to refund the program with another $400 billion, hopefully we will get them in this next round. So I don't know for certain, but I assume the applications will start again tomorrow because the bill was approved today. But they might have specific dates in the bill. We haven't seen it yet.
Is there a pitch you can make on behalf of Berlin residents and Berlin businesses and EDC, since this is being taped or recorded, a sort of a summary of what the good, bad, and the ugly of what a viewer can do to help themselves, whether it be a business or an individual? Just a brief pitch that people can just digest.
The individuals, they don't have to do anything to get their stimulus package. If they qualify, they will get it. It's just a matter of when. You can check that IRS website up to once per day. It is updated daily.
And that was Get My Payment?
It's irs.gov, and then once you're on there, you look for coronavirus tax relief and economic impact payments, and then there's a big blue button that says Get My Payment, which is the tool. They should have their previous year's tax return, because some of the questions will ask exactly what their gross adjusted income is and what their last refund or the amount paid was, to verify that they have the right person.
And what is the approximate analysis of how much a person will get?
An individual who earned less than 75,000 will get $1,200. Couples that earn less than 150,000 will get $2,400. And then there's a sliding scale where it's a certain amount off for every 1,000 up to 199,000, and then each child in the family will get $500 for that child.
And have you been hearing folks getting that? And did that run out of funding as well, or just the Paycheck Protection?
That was fully funded. That's coming from the Treasury itself. So not everyone has gotten theirs yet, but everyone who's qualified will eventually get it. If they're getting paper checks, which if they had to pay taxes the last 2 years, they might not have direct deposit information on file at the IRS. They're getting paper checks. That is being said that it could take up to 5 months to get that.
Oh,
But hopefully the first round of checks will be going out in the next couple of weeks, but direct deposits I have seen start.
So Jeff, that's very helpful. That gives us an idea about the individual segment. Now, is there any more individual knowledge you can share with us?
Just again, be careful of the various schemes that are going around with the emails to get you to click on things that look like information about COVID-19. If you don't know what it is, don't accept the email. Don't click on links or open attachments unless you know who's sending it to you. And there's also a mule scheme where people are sending fake checks and with instructions to send a portion on to somebody else. And by the time you've sent the money on, and then the original check bounces as a fraudulent check. So
That's very
Jeff,
helpful.
Chris, I have a question, if you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
On the, I'm interested because I'm hearing different stories from different banks. Did you move most of your business customers? Did you give them an extra 3 or 4 months to back end their loans like most of the other banks?
We are not doing it just out of service, but if anyone calls and is struggling, they have been making arrangements on an individual case-by-case basis. And I haven't heard them denying anyone moving payments. I
haven't either, and I think
asked.
that's wonderful. One of my tenants asked me to check to see if the banks should be charging a late fee. These programs took time to set themselves in motion, and when he went to pay his PPP money in, he got hit with a late fee. And I was just curious as to if he asked for that late fee back, which is what I told him to do. The banks probably are waiving those fees. Do you believe that?
I can't speak for all banks. We are being as generous as we can with payments. We do ask that you contact us before you're late as opposed to afterwards, because they're much more likely to waive the fee ahead of time than they are to rebate it later.
Yeah, no, he paid it on the day he agreed to pay it, but it was technically late because he was waiting for his money to come in. But he did pay it on the date they requested, which was kind of on the 30th day. But I was just interested in how you saw that scenario playing out. But I appreciate your input on that one question.
Sure.
All right, super. Thanks, Matt. Jeff, go ahead.
No, I, without knowing the specifics of the customer, if they were often late or if this was a one-time thing, it would be very hard to answer. As I said, if you get in touch with us ahead of time and let us know you're worried about being late, they're very likely to make arrangements for you.
All
I'm
right.
going to tell him that, and now I've heard it from another banker, so I appreciate that.
Sure.
So Jeff, talk to us about the commercial or business options that exist out there, and keep in mind that there's viewers, so just sort of go from basic to more advanced, if you don't mind.
So I'm going to talk from a very basic base, mainly because this is not an area that I spend a lot of time with. I've got about a 3-week crash course in this now since this program started. And that's on top of doing all the things I normally do. So basically the payroll protection program was approved end of March. And by April 3rd, it was all of a sudden in existence with basically no direction on how the banks were to implement it. So we started receiving questions and even applications from customer before we had any information about how to process anything. So the first week of this program was figuring out what was actually going to be required, how we were getting it approved, and how to actually get the bank itself certified as a lender, because this was not a program that we were not an SBA bank to begin with. So we had to get certified quickly before we could even start accepting applications. Once we had applications, we quickly found out what we were going to need, which was payroll information from the weeks of February 15th to show that the business is still ongoing, payroll information from the end of 2019 to show salaries and related expenses, and then the 940 form for the year end 2019, and 2 years of tax returns for the business. So once we have that and the application, we put it through. SBA actually does the approval. So we submit everything to them, they approve and get back to us, and then we can disperse funds. It's actually been quicker than I thought in terms of approvals and getting funds into accounts. As I said, I know of at least a few of them that came through me that have been funded, and at least one more that should be funded by the end of the week.
So do you have data entry people that are going nuts entering all this data, or do you do this, or how do you practically do all this?
So the actual form is a fillable PDF that you can get right from the SBA.gov website. Downloaded, printed out. It's a 2-page application. It's fairly straightforward. There's a few attestations, and you put in your payroll information and your contact information and your bank information, and then that gets in. That goes to the SBA, and then they get the backup documentation as well.
But is it sort of fed to your computer, then you have to re-forward it to the SBA?
Basically, I'm scanning it and emailing it to my commercial lending department, and from there it gets input by somebody else. So I don't actually know how it works from that point on. I do know that the person who's doing the majority of these is extremely busy. I know in the first couple days we had over 90 inquiries, and she's got to get information from all of those customers, get back to them.
Must be very tough. Must be very tough.
Hey, Jeff, a couple of questions for you. Is 2019 taxes, because it was pushed off until July, but you still need to have your 2019 taxes for this program, I take it?
They want the 2 most recent years that you have filed. So if you haven't filed 2019 yet, they'll take 18 and 17.
Excellent, cool. And so if you're a sole proprietor, Schedule C will work, or?
Yes.
And then for agriculture, is there any special requirements for farms?
I don't know the answer to that without checking with the commercial lending department.
Okay. That was my question.
All right, Jeff, go for it. I don't want to keep anyone longer than we have to. Is there more to talk about on the business side?
I think we hit most of the major highlights at the moment. I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as I sign off.
Paul,
Guys, this is Matt
question?
Kenny, and I am going
Matt,
to sign off and let you take care of community work amongst your committee. Thank you very, very much, Chris Green. Thank you, Councilwoman-elect. Good luck with your campaign.
Matt, before you go, could you tell us anything new hotel-wise, restaurant-wise, construction-wise? Can you give us a quick synopsis?
I can. We are open for construction on the site, probably working at about 50% capacity. I'm not really sure why, because I'm not technically one of the owners down there. But we are going forward. We're doing visual tours so that people hopefully can move in. We're predicting, if there isn't a second wave, we're predicting sales that would have started this month of April to kind of push out 120 days I think we'll be bringing people onto the property in July, and then a big surge in August as the new school year and everybody kind of hunkers down around Labor Day. There's a big push in the industry as people set up for the winter. But it's going to be a big hit for everybody. You know, that's a lot of empty bedrooms that aren't being utilized on our forecast. There is no activity, true activity for restaurants. The people I've been talking to, we're all in waiting modes. Most of these people have their own businesses already, so they're just worried about kind of taking care of themselves, and future plans have all been put on hold. The hotel is about where it was before. They're open because they're an extended stay model. They're doing a little better than the national average, but you know, it's a long haul back. It'll be a while before that hotel is back, you know, in the 70 percentile.
What's
Where it really
the
needs
occupancy like right now?
20%, 23%. It ranges from 19 to 23% depending on the day.
That's pretty rough.
It is rough. You know, that industry is going to take a long time to come back, and thank God I have pretty good partners. You know, they own 12 of them. This is the only one they have a partner on, so I get daily reports, but I don't know everything going on internally, as we're just one part of a bigger group down there.
And
But
what
they're
about
working their business models very hard. Riverbridge is surrounded with good people. We have good tenants. We have good banking relationships. And Chris and I work very hard at it.
Mm-hmm. Jaylon, Chris is his brother, who's one of the owners and an attorney as well.
Okay, thank you.
What about Boundless?
I've been in touch with Boundless 3 or 4 times. They're heartbroken because they had all these schools signed up for this spring, but they're not going anywhere. And staycations may be very popular this summer, where people are just traveling 30 or 40 miles day tripping rather than going on large vacations, not getting on airplanes, not being with larger groups. And so they're guardedly optimistic that when people start moving around, day trips may become become bigger than ever for them. It's a nice family outing, almost like going to a little mountain to go skiing with the family, that sort of thing. But, you know, group sales are going to take a huge hit, and it's a huge part of their business model.
What's their projected opening date or guesstimate?
Well, until the virus, it was April 4th. Let me throw out Memorial Day. I don't know. We've been so far in the weeds on other things that I haven't even literally asked them that question.
All right, let's let Matt go. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions for Matt?
I had one thing for Matt, and you know, just because I know he works with a lot of independent contractors and folks over there.
Okay.
Folks that are looking for some assistance because they don't traditionally meet unemployment requirements. There is a program out there for Massachusetts independent contractors and stuff. If they go to PUA, it's Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. And independent contractors, LLCs, folks who don't have employees, but rely on their business, can go on and get some assistance through this.
I was reading about that just today. I've talked with most of my one-offs, and the bigger companies, they just seem to all know what they're doing. The few, I hire some local guys that have their own, that are pretty small in town, to do the various jobs around Riverbridge. I have chatted with just about all of them, and everybody seems to know what they're doing.
Good.
And the PUA program, I think, is relatively new, but everybody's comfortable.
Good.
You know, I've talked to all my local suppliers, and everybody's. I think everybody's rallying around together pretty well here.
Glad to hear it.
Okay, guys. Anything else for me tonight?
No, I'm going to put up on the screen the POA, and thank you very much for.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
guys. I always enjoy it. Have a good evening.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Matt. Bye.
Let's see if we can look at this. No, wrong. Do we have PUA or not? We don't.
There it is.
Do you have P, does it say apply for pandemic?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what Jason is talking about. I've not heard of this.
My wife got a link yesterday from one of another Pilates instructor that she works with.
This is a new program because I just heard of it just the other day as well.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward and easy to apply for.
Mhm.
I
It
don't know.
launched yesterday. I also posted it on my Facebook page.
It just came live yesterday, but yeah, it's for small businesses, for sole proprietors, this is probably going to be a better program than any of the others, or they're more likely to qualify for this than they are the others.
For sure. I know my wife didn't qualify for anything.
She
Why
did.
was she disqualified? Because of your income?
No, well, no, because she's a 1099, she's a contract worker. So the traditional stuff that's out there right now, she just didn't qualify for. But this one, it seemed like it was pretty easy for her to apply for it.
Right. So she wouldn't qualify for the PPP, you mean, but she is qualified for this, or you haven't heard back yet, right?
We haven't heard back yet, but the application was pretty straightforward. So we'll
Oh,
see.
So Jason, you feel she might be qualified for the PUA?
Yes.
Ah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
So
Yes.
it's-
So most single, photographers or Pilates instructors or, landscapers, folks that are sole proprietors that are suffering through this, then this might be an easier relief than trying to go through the PPP program.
For sure.
Now, what about those, now, who qualifies for UI, unemployment insurance, if at all? Do you apply to both when you're in this situation?
Well, typically sole proprietors, folks that are self-employed can't, in the past, they couldn't apply for unemployment, so if unemployment is for W-2 employees that work for companies, lost their job. So sole
Yeah.
proprietors couldn't do that. So this is new as of the CARES Act through COVID. And this just became available yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
They've been talking about it for a while, but the links just came online yesterday.
Yeah.
So one applies to either or, but not both.
A lot of companies could do both. My understanding is that you can't do both. It's either or. So there's a lot of businesses that are sort of in the middle, right? They're more than a sole proprietor. They might have one or two employees that are kind of hedging their bets. They started with the PPP program and may or may not have been approved it. Actually, I haven't met anybody that's been approved for the PPP program yet. And so now they're applying to this. And, so as an example, what I'm talking about as a business, it might be a husband and wife photography business that owns a studio and a couple of part-time employees. They haven't heard from the PPP program yet. They haven't been denied or approved. They're still being evaluated. And then they were told they ran out of money. And so this is how they're hoping to cover the groceries now.
Can you see this? Thank you. Keith, can you see the next panel?
Yep.
Okay.
Does that sound right to you, Jeff? Are you guys part of this program, or this is entirely separate for you? This is through the state,
This is
right?
entirely state. So this is through unemployment, not bank related. I do know that 1099 are eligible for PPP, but that doesn't mean it's any easier. This seems like an easier program to get because if you have multiple 1099 workers, the business that coordinates them is the one that would have to be applying for the PPP.
Yeah, most businesses or most self-employed entrepreneurs that I've spoken to in the past 2 weeks, without being an expert, but just based on my deep dive and all this information, I would say most of the people that I've spoken to are more applicable for this program than the PPP program, and certainly are more eligible for it.
For sure.
Jason, how difficult was it for your wife to get through this application process?
20 minutes.
And documents required?
You needed to know your income, your your gross last year and your adjusted gross.
So
Mhm.
Schedule
did-
C for self-employed folks, and they'll need their bank account.
Yeah, it was pretty basic information.
Mhm. Well, this is something I guess we should move on, but this is something we should integrate into the handout that you may have seen on the agenda. All right, so that's helpful. Jeff, if you can hang tight, we've got a handout I'd like to talk about in a minute and maybe get your input on.
Sure, I can stick around for a few minutes.
All right, super. All right, so moving back to our agenda. Minutes. Did anybody have a peek besides Paul and I?
Yeah,
Jason,
take a peek.
Keith?
Yeah, I took a look at it. My only critique was my last name was spelled wrong.
That's not good.
Are you sure you're not doing it wrong, Jason?
That is very plausible after the 5 weeks I've had.
All right, so we'll see if I can, let me just bring it up quick and bear with me here.
Maybe be back in a second.
Are those meeting minutes in front of us?
Yes.
Okay, super. Oh, it's got 2 L's. Is that the problem?
No, down further in the notes.
Oh, Rowling.
Yeah.
Oh, what the heck?
It's all good.
Any other comments? Well, Keith has stepped away for a minute.
No, but I think that, I think it summed everything up well. I didn't think anything was missing in the notes.
All right. I'll just scan it quickly for Jalen and Jeff to get a taste. And wait for Keith to come back. There he is. Keith, we're going to wrap up the minutes. Are you good with what you saw except for the correction that Jason mentioned?
I am, yes.
All right, so do I hear a motion? And we got to do this by name.
I move to
Motion,
accept the
motion.
meeting
I
minutes.
second it. All in favor?
We have to do a roll call. Jason, are
Yeah.
you in favor?
Yes.
Paul?
I am in favor.
And the meeting minutes are accepted.
You didn't ask me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Peter, well, you did. You motioned it. And do you have to ask? You seconded it.
All members are in favor. I think we can say it easily enough. All right, so that's done. Let me unshare the screen. So did you see the essential business list that came from Civic Plus? That's the link. Here, let me share this. 1 minute.
Yeah, I saw it, but it seemed like it was mostly retail business. You know, it was missing folks like the construction business and all the other businesses I see around in town. Is that the goal, was to just for retail or folks that have a storefront, or?
I have no idea where this came from. I have absolutely not the foggiest clue, and I'm having trouble sharing this. I don't know. It's quite beyond me, but just a second here.
I'm not even sure we know all of the business in town, but I was just thinking of folks like, you know, Rhodes Construction and Sawyer Construction and just all the other businesses. I don't, you know, next to the Flat Penny, there's that industrial building to the right of the Flat Penny. I don't have any idea what they do, but they clearly still have some activity going on there.
H&H deliveries.
Is that what it is? Okay. You know, and so it seemed like that list that was sent around was anything that was open to the public.
I don't know where they got it from, and there's a list of about 100, if I remember correctly, Paul. Do you verify that of the spreadsheet and that's in the town clerk's office? But it is a unique list. I don't know where it's come from.
Mining on here.
Right, good point.
I didn't hear that. What'd you say?
The bank is not on there.
Yeah, the bank's not on there. Okay.
All right, so next on the list was this. Let's see if I can bring that up.
So wait, so Peter,
Yes,
so what was the outcome of this list? What did we decide?
we didn't decide anything. It's just a list that appeared in my
Okay.
email box.
Okay, we don't know where it came from, who distributed it, what its purpose is. We don't know anything.
I think it was pushed by the town from town leadership or from town something to us. You know, initially it seemed like a useful list, but it is incomplete.
I think it's retail. It's at least from as far as I can tell, it's all of the retail stores in town, the place that you would go to and walk into, minus the bank. So we are missing a few, at least.
Yeah.
Well, and some of those aren't actually in town, like Lilac Hedges in Holden now.
Yeah, I
Right.
noticed that one too. You're right.
Yeah, and there are other small, are they supposed to be small businesses that are supposed to be open, or are they? Because another small business that's not on here is the Kitchen Place. That's a Berlin small business. I mean, it's listed in Berlin. It's right next to Sears. It's in the mall, but I mean, I get their emails. They're trying to sell. They've got links to major websites where you can order kitchen utensils and such, and then they get credited as having the sale.
But are they essential? They're open through the state emergency?
I see. Oh, so these are essential businesses.
I don't know. I mean, it would be something that I don't,
Well,
I can't
Cabela's
take
isn't
another.
open. Cabela's is not open.
Yeah, you're right.
So listen, I can't take on another task. Keith, normally I'd ask Jason, but he's really so saturated with Wegmans. There's no way. Keith, is there any way that you can tackle whoever and figure out where this comes from? What, if anything, we should do with it? Do you have time to add that to your?
I mean, I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. The list, you want me
Yeah.
to see who created this list here, or?
Well, find out the genesis. Let's see if we can improve it and maybe use it. I don't know.
But-
What do you guys think?
Well, I guess the question is, what was the original purpose? I mean, I think you should go to the next thing, which is to, drop off the potential resources sheet to relevant businesses. I mean, these are so different. I mean, BJ's is so very different than Balance Rock. I don't know what the purpose of this list is. I mean, is
So-
it just a list of essential businesses? Then it doesn't mean, then fine, it's a list of essential businesses.
So should we just skip over and move on?
I mean, sort of. I don't know where you're going with this handout sheet, but I had something I wanted to suggest too. I've talked to a couple of businesses.
Keith, hang on. Let's wait till we get to that, if that's okay.
Yeah, what do you guys thoughts about that? My thought is, I don't know what to make of this list, is the bottom line.
So then let's skip it. Let's move on.
Okay,
So there's another link in the minutes, I'm sorry, in the agenda, which is this. It's another resource list. I don't know if any of you clicked on it when you had a chance. But it's more resources from the CMRPC, which we're a member of. We're also a member of the Southern Worcester County Economic Development Organization. I'm not sure, but Jeff, maybe you want to take that as a resource for your purposes, which is, cmrpc.org, and then you can go to COVID-19. Anyway, it's just, and something else I ran into, and then one last one, which is this. Hold on. Or not. There we go. And the relevance of this, I don't recall anymore. So let's go back to this. And that's it. So Paul, nothing from Jed, I guess?
no, he called me back. The short version of the story today is that they are working with their tenants to get arrangements to get paid. And, one tenant is different than another, so the kinds of arrangements that they might have with one tenant are not the same as the ones they would have with another tenant. And so they're, obviously they are very, very, very busy. and Jeff will know about this, working with their bank to document that tenants have made arrangements, alternative arrangements to pay their rent, which they then have to document with the bank for the bank to say, okay, we will let you defer your mortgage payment for one of your retail spaces or one of your malls for 2 months or whatever. But the banks want to see firm letters of agreement between tenants and Highland Commons, for example, but Benderson and any other of their malls before they're willing to say, yeah, we can relax your mortgage terms. So, I mean, that's sort of the situation. And so they're spending just hours right now in negotiations with attorneys and tenants and then the banks to try to get relaxation on when mortgages are due.
Jaylon and Jeff, Paul's speaking of the principal at Highland Commons. Go ahead, Paul.
That's it. That's the gist of the message.
It's nothing about new tenants or anything like that.
No, I got a sense that there's like zero activity on new tenants or anything like that. No, nothing at all. Yeah.
All right. Okay, and Fit Factory, you probably know zero about, right?
Yeah, and I asked Jed, and they have no idea what's going to happen there.
As in, it may not open, or maybe
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell whether it means they may not open. I don't think they know.
Okay.
You know, because if they were on the street, I mean, and Jed didn't say this, but reading between the lines, if they were already having a hard time finishing off, looking for financial backing to be able to finish that up, now with a, who knows how many months delay before you can open, I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't think Jed really knew either.
Yeah. Okay. Jason?
Well, the chamber, he said that he couldn't make this one, but he could join the next meeting if it fits into his schedule. So when we pick a date, I'll confirm with him ASAP so I can get back to you on that one.
Okay.
As far
Database
as the-
signs, you're probably too saturated with work.
I haven't done anything with that. The sign project though, I started to dig into it, and Keith, I didn't reach out to you because I figured we would talk about it tonight. Does it make sense for us to propose this to the town at this point when we're asking them to like curb their spending?
Oh, are you talking to me or are you talking to the?
No, just the group in general. Like, if we're
Well,
going to put
I
together.
think getting money is out of the question, but maybe we can find a way to fund it on our own.
Okay, maybe we could do a fundraiser or something. Yeah.
Or
Sponsored signs. Yeah.
sponsored. I mean, that was always a discussion, sponsored.
All right. So Keith, I'll reach out to you in the next couple of days.
When you
Sounds
do
good.
get around to that discussion, please,
Pardon me, Jeff?
when you do get around to the sponsorship discussion for signs, stop by and I'll see if I can get my marketing department interested.
Oh, great.
Thanks, Jeff.
And just so you know, what we're trying to do with signs is we want to help Berlin have an identity. So when you cross over from the neighboring towns, you clearly know that you're in Berlin, and there's not a lot of welcome signs to our community. So we're just trying to bring some light to our lovely area.
Jeff, would you be willing to team up with us in a sense, you / the bank, and maybe through your network of contacts, other merchants, other banks, other businesses? We need half a dozen signs, would everyone guess? And if we get one business to sponsor, like Clyn would sponsor one sign, whether it's 500 or 5,000, it's way beyond us to know that. But get a business like Clinton Savings to sponsor one sign, and then another 4 businesses, and we're in business. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to team up with us and help us in that regard?
I don't know if I would be able to ask for money for sponsorships because of the position with the bank, but I would certainly be able to share contacts.
Or give an informal list to me offline of folks that you've spoken with or haven't spoken with. What do you guys think? Keith, Paul, Jason, something along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know who the big businesses are in town that might be interested.
We
But
also know that a lot of these businesses are going through a really hard time right now. I mean, Matt,
Yeah.
that just hung up with us, I'm sure, and under the best of times, would love to sponsor a sign. It
Yeah.
feels
Especially
weird
when we're
asking
on
him
the
right
road.
now, though,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it might be, again, we can have more dialogue around it, but it might be a fun project to do some sort of fundraiser around it. Maybe it's not a sponsored sign, but it's a community effort,
Awesome. Might be something worth mentioning to the home day committee.
Mhm.
For when they do home day in the fall, you could do a specific event or something for fundraising at that.
Good idea.
Did we have, I don't recall, did we have a guesstimate for sign cost all in?
No, because what the DPW shared with us was not even close. When I first reached out to the sign company that made the other signs for the town, I mean, we're probably looking at $5,000 a sign,
Okay.
and that's without them being approved and installed by the DPW.
And that's plus labor.
Correct.
I
That's
think
just for the physical sign.
that seems awfully hefty, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna. They're not open right now, but once we figure out location and dimension of what we're looking for, I'll email them back and see if I can get more concrete numbers. And clearly, we could shop around.
Okay.
There's other sign businesses out there,
Okay.
No.
So to the extent possible, you and Keith will do something.
Yeah.
Anything database wise? No.
No.
Okay. All right. Keith? In terms of National Lumber, Berlin General Store, or anything else along those
Yeah, I
lines?
talked to Melissa again. I sent an email. I think I CC'd you guys. She said she was going to forward it on to her parents. I haven't heard from her parents, which I guess are the owners of the business.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to the two other things, the database and our essential businesses. I mean, I don't want to betray confidences, but I have talked to friends in town who also happen to be business owners. And most people didn't even realize, or all of them didn't realize what their options were as a small business owner in some of these relief packages. And I can't say that any of them have obtained help at this point, but I can say that just a simple conversation had inspired them to what I encourage them to do is to talk to their banks, because it seems to be, that's going to be the quickest form to solutions. So I was thinking that it's worth our time to reach out to all of the businesses in town, definitely the essential businesses, but whatever's on that database, whether it's complete or not. And I know we're talking about doing a handout, but everybody I've talked to have seen emails and they've seen Facebook posts, but it's all overwhelming and complicated. And it's like that PowerPoint presentation you just showed, there's so many variables there because it has to be so many variables for all the different types of businesses that it's really easy for a person who is a tradesman to just get lost in the detail and give up and not look into it. And so I feel like we're in a position that, maybe we can divide up those lists and divide and conquer and actually just have a conversation with folks. And that alone, I haven't done anything other than say, hey, you should go talk to your bank. And we're seeing some results from that. So I think that's something we should consider, is to take definitely the essential business list and have a one-on-one conversations with them. I think most of them we do anyways. I mean, I know most of them are the big, farms in town. So we're all communicating with them on a friend level anyways. But actually take the time to encourage them to maybe look into programs that are out there. And then I would love to know, I haven't seen this database since I've been here. I would love to know who these other businesses are. I mean, Jeff knew that one in the corner that I didn't know. Are they hurting? Are they suffering? Are they aware of the relief programs out there? Are they struggling to keep employees on staff? We don't know.
So one of my resources that I check every couple of years is the DBA certificates from the town clerk, which is a list of, it's a pretty decent sized list of businesses in town. It is unfortunately not on the website at all, but if you get an email to,
I'm going to try to bring it up, Jeff. I have that list. It's
Okay.
pretty, let's see.
Is that one of the ones that we're using for the database comparison? Is that the legacy data that
Yeah,
you've been comparing,
that's right.
Jason?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure we have to, we might miss one or two businesses, but if we just pick one of the list, any one of them, and, break them up into sections of 4, and then each of us call what we can, I think.
so the DBA list is only sole proprietors in Berlin or corporations doing business as another name. So any LLCs or corporations that aren't a DBA of something else won't be on that list. It's only people who have paid for a DBA certificate with the town.
So Jeff, this has been a frustration of ours forever, or at least since the EDC was stood up. There's the state records, there's the town assessor records, there's the town clerk records, and probably other records. And here's a list. We sent a survey out 2-3 years ago when the EDC started. We got 6 responses and several return mail, and got nowhere with it.
So I have probably sent letters to 3/4 of these businesses over the past 5 years, and maybe 1 in 15 ever gets back to me.
You're doing better than us. We had 6 in 100.
Well, and some of them are to tell me to not send them another letter.
So, I mean, look at it. There's the Wheelers. So let me jump in and then let Keith continue, if I may. So the genesis of this handout is Margaret. Margaret's idea was, let's get the police, while they're relatively not busy, to go physically and engage these businesses that Keith's talking about and Keith's not talking about, and hand him a piece of paper and try to encourage them to engage us, the EDC. I suggested what you see I wrote in the handout draft, that they email us, and on a rotation basis, we coach them to the extent that we're able. I know Paul's thinking that's maybe not the greatest idea. He should speak for himself in a second, but that's the idea that Margaret had, and I think the police chiefs approved it, and if the police are willing to do it, my God, how much better does it get than that? And I suggested, and she concurred, that we retrieve 4 pieces of information: name of the person, email address, phone number, and business name, or other pieces of information too. And then we'll have a useful list, especially if it's fed to us back and forth slowly. We'll be able to chip away at it. So that's the genesis. And if our little town's police are willing to do that, geez, that's wonderful. Now, Keith, the floor is back to you. I just wanted to jump in and say that.
I mean, sure. I'm not saying that won't hurt, and we might, shake a few out of the bush that way. But I think that, my experience with the Council on Aging is a great example. They mailed out flyers to everybody, and nobody even looked at them. And so then they started calling everybody on their list. I volunteered and contacted H's and J's, and they wanted stuff that was on the list, on what that flyer was. It just was overwhelming, and they just didn't look at it. They threw it away. Or everybody I talked to actually remembers seeing the flyer, but didn't pick up on the fact that there were masks available. And so it just really opened my eyes that sending out the piece of paper, I don't know. That works with a certain group of people, but a lot of people, myself included, just don't look at that stuff.
It's junk mail.
The other problem is sending the police around. I know the police are, this is a good PR stunt for them, which is great. And I think that's wonderful. They should go knocking door to door to, help out businesses. But part of the challenge that I'm seeing here with a lot of these folks is that, it feels like they're dealing with the tax man, right? When the town calls and says, hey, how's your business going? They're not thinking that the town's looking to help their business. They're thinking the town's looking for something from them. And I can say that as a business person myself. I own a business. When Peter first called me, it scared the death out of me. Like, what does he want, right? And I'm seeing that with my friends that I've talked to. When I have a conversation with them, it inspires a different thought on a different level. I think it takes a certain business nuance that maybe the police do have. I don't know.
But remember, Keith, and everyone, the police know 90 or 98% of the people they're going to encounter. They're going to go to Rue's garage and say, hey, I don't know who the owner is, Frank. I just want to make sure you knew of these programs, the EDC's available to help you if you'd like, and here's a piece of paper and let me explain some of it to you.
No, I think
Now,
that's
you
great.
can't do this in New York City, but you certainly, and they call that in the big cities, community policing. This is a form of community policing, as probably some of you know.
Yeah, I'm not totally against it. And actually, if I don't know how much the police department is aware of these different programs out there, but I'm assuming that they're going to, sort of bone up on them a little bit before they do this, then I think that would be, it's certainly better than doing nothing. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let me share the screen for a second more.
Maybe there's a combination of two things you do there. If the police are just going by, you don't know if they're just going to knock on the door and leave a leaflet in the door and walk away. Because how many people are going to answer their door? I guess they'll probably answer if the police are there, but but most people are trying to avoid contact with other people.
Exactly.
Well, I think if it's not done with the right touch, I think that's your point, Jason, or at least part of your point, Jason and Keith. It's going to be a failed effort.
But I think that list, we don't even know how accurate the phone numbers are on that list.
Not very
It's inaccurate. We're not going to provide a list. They're going to do it on their own.
So they're going to get us a list.
No, they're going to reach out to the businesses that they know. And you know what? If they are successful with 10 and unsuccessful with 90, it's not so bad either. And you know what? We've tried.
Are they going to give us a list of who they've reached out to, or how would that work?
Well, I'm going to ask for that. They don't work for me, but I'm certainly going to firmly ask for it. And I've already mentioned it, and I believe the answer is yes.
Great.
But
because then it could turn into, all right, nobody emails the EDC. So then we turn it around and we cold called some of these people, and to Keith's point, we just introduce ourselves and say, hey, there's options out there. Not sure if you need help or not. But
everyone but me, I might scare people.
How about a compromise for the essential businesses that are on the list, which again, that we think are just businesses that are open during this time of crisis? Does anybody mind if I reach out to them? It's not a big list. What is there, 10 or so or 12 on there?
No, I think that'd be wonderful.
Okay.
I think
So let's see what happens with that. And if it does, if it does provoke some sort of action on their behalf, then maybe we can translate that to the other businesses. So good.
That sounds great.
All right, so we'll come back to the handout to discuss it for a second. I just want to touch on these other things. The warrant article on its own, it miraculously is on the ATM coming meeting because it's low-hanging fruit and it's easy enough to deal with. I completed that security assignment today, so that's done. And the privacy form is this form, I hope.
Peter, did you say that the warrant article will be on the ATM?
That's right.
Wow, okay.
I was surprised, but they're going to include it. And The privacy form, I'm not, just a second here. I want to just show it.
Remind me what the warrant article is to reduce the,
So we don't report to two boards, we report just to the planning board, and planning board will have a discretion as to the membership size.
Okay.
One second. This is the form. Now, this is a form that, what do you see? Do you see a Town of Berlin form?
no, we
Not
see
yet.
the agenda still.
Oh, sorry. Not that good at this. All right, so this is the form that needs to be signed by all of us. Now, Keith's already signed it, so I don't think there's any need to go through that exercise again.
You want me to stick it in your mailbox?
Well, actually, that's exactly what I want to do. If somebody could print it, Jason, if you're willing, print this from the email, sign it, and stick it in someone's mailbox, either Paul's or mine. Because
All right.
Keith, again, does not need to do that. And then if it's mine, I'll stick it in your mailbox, Paul, or vice versa.
I don't have a mailbox.
Oh, well,
Oh, sneaky.
do you
Peter, I like your bears with the mask, so I'll put it in your mailbox.
Sneaking around, are you, Jason?
Yeah, I forgot what we were down there for the other day. We went for a ride.
All right, so, and then Paul, I'll just mail it to you?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so that settles that. One moment. All right, let me share this sheet. I think this sheet, this handout needs to be reworked tremendously, given what I've heard tonight. One second, sorry. Here we go. I hope. Yeah. Okay, so this is what I drafted. Paul was nice enough to help me improve it. And I think given the PUA information we've got, that's got to be improved. And I don't feel very good about what we've done here or what I've done here. So what's all of your input as to the way this looks?
I mean, I feel like
And
it's,
again, Pete, sorry,
ahead.
Keith, I was just gonna say, and this is what we would give to the police if they were gonna go and hand something out, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
I'm trying
All right, go ahead, Keith, sorry. I just want to clarify that.
to make this a bit smaller. There we go. Okay, Keith, were you going to say something?
I mean, I just feel like it's like all of the other information revolving around this. It's just so overwhelming that people aren't going to make sense of it, right? It's just,
But here, all right, here's, excuse me for interrupting. Here's my thought. The police are there as a salesperson. Hi, it's us. Here's a piece of paper. They're going to look at this piece of paper and go blind. That's your point, Keith. Agreed. All the police should be encouraging them to do is to reconsider how daunting this is and get on the phone or get on the email with us. That's the best, the realistic best case scenario. Does that make sense?
yeah. I mean, I feel like it should be half
It's
of that.
daunting to me.
Right. Half of that first paragraph, just the bullets, forget the links. No one's going to, you can't even click on a link. So they're not going to go typing everything anyways. Just put the bullets and a big phone number saying, or the, EDC's email saying, reach out to us. We're here to help. And
Yeah, maybe, you just list the programs.
right.
Well, what about the search words? You see halfway down EIDL economic injury. That's why I put search words there. PPP, search word. Skip the links altogether and just do the search words?
No, just the bullets. It's too overwhelming.
So for a handout, I would have just the bullets and then maybe the EDCs, if the EDC has a website that they could go to, and then put the bullets, click the links on there so they can click on them from there. If there's
Think
one place
Apple.
they can
What
go
would
to get
Apple
the
do?
links.
Make a lot of money. What would Amazon do? Make a lot of money.
They would just have the logo, a couple of bullets, and a phone number. That's it. if the police are walking around, that's going to be the message is like, hey, how's your business? You know, having any issues at all? You know what? Why don't you give the EDC a call? And frankly, call your bank. That's it. I know we want them to call us too, but really the best way for us to help them is for them to call their specific bank. As awesome as Jeff is, and Jeff, by the way, all the people that I've been talking to, I've been with Bank of America for 17 years. I've never had a line of credit with them. I've never needed it. I've had successful businesses. I don't qualify for any loans. I'm not interested in taking out loans anyways. Or I mean, I'm not interested in the PPP program, but they made it really clear right up front was don't even come knocking on the door. So the lesson that I'm hearing is that it's all about being with a small bank, your local bank. And, you know, I'm looking forward to opening an account with Clinton right down the road after this. But I think that's, if we really want to help our local
I
town,
need that
you know,
video from the recording and
I mean, you know,
This recording will be published, so you can get a clip out of it.
you've got me to tell. I will. I mean, it's true. I'm disappointed in my bank, and I wish that I had spent more time with local banks. But with that said, if we want to help our local entrepreneurs, I think the best way to do it is encourage them to contact us, and then we encourage them to contact the banks. And you know, all the information we're giving them, all this stuff is already out there. It's all over social media. It's all over emails, and they're entrepreneurs. They're not dumb. They're thinking about this and looking at it already. But it's overwhelming. You know, if you're got a small farm and you're growing flowers, you're not into going through all these grants and SBA stuff. So they need someone to walk them through it. We just need to let them know to not give up and to keep looking, because, you know, other people are doing it and they're just missing out, really. I know that the other thing is there's a lot of businesses that feel like, you know what, I can get through this, and I might not, you know, we'll just raise our bootstraps and go and get through, which is possible. They might be able to do it, which is wonderful.
But they don't need to.
But they don't need to. Exactly. There's no
They don't
shame.
need to
There's
set
no,
themselves
it's not a
back.
pride thing, because their competitors down the road are taking advantage of it. They might as well too, you know?
Mhm.
So back to the sheet. I mean, I feel like I would love to contribute on this, but my contributing is going to be to X out everything on here, and you're going to see literally, I mean, if they can't read it in 1 minute, then I don't think we've done a good job.
Yeah, I mean, it should just be like simply, we want to help you.
Right.
Well, you know, some sort of community slogan as far as, well, let's let the EDC help you. Please reach out. You know.
I agree.
I maybe the top half of the page is mostly that, or top 2/3 of the page, but there should be some resources on the document, so those few that want to can.
I mean, mass,
Read.
just mass.gov. There's, you know, all of these sublinks all bring you back to the same point. I think the mass.gov website has all these directions. You know, it allows people to answer questions and go into whatever direction they need to. But even that, I don't think, you know, any entrepreneur, anybody is going to already have started this process. The problem is they're being overwhelmed and they're giving up. So more links is not going to help them. You know, maybe one mass.gov and that's it. You know, I mean, even us on our own board, if we did a poll here with our group and asked what the difference is between PPP and the CARE Act and the Self-Employment Act, none of us would be able to give the same answer on that. And I've been studying it for weeks now.
And it changes so quickly too.
Well, and the worst part is they're not all available either. So that's the other thing, is we give all this information and it makes it sound like you just need to sign up or go here. But the truth is most of these programs, although they've been links for weeks now, none of them have been active or alive other than a few days. And then the program has been lost funds, you know, exhausted funds within a very short period of time. So it's just not helpful to keep giving them links that go nowhere, you know?
But if you don't, if they hunt to the same location and get nowhere, they'll be equally frustrated, no, or more.
And, right. And so we need to give them a very high level link, which is just go to your mass.gov and look at all these links. It's very clear on mass.gov. It breaks it down into the different programs. But more importantly, we should be saying contact your bank. Just contact your bank. those are going to be the people that can help them the most. They have to have an account with the bank. The bank's going to know what their options are. There's too many variables. If you're a sole proprietor, or if you're, have employees, or if you're a farm. I mean, Jeff, that's why I was asking. I've talked to 4 people today about farms. Agricultural has totally different requirements than what I do as a cinematographer. And so it doesn't matter how deep I dive into my industry, I can't help agriculture without diving deep into theirs. So if we give them, we can't put every possible link on there. I think a better solution is to keep it generic and go talk to the people that can help them.
Ag lending is a whole separate subdivision, which is why nobody really can compete with the farm lenders when it comes to farm loans, because they're so specific to loans, to that type of loan. So.
Right, but there must be, there's a difference between a big farm with, 200 head of cattle and someone who's been, trying to meet their 61A requirements in town and, just growing flowers or Christmas trees on the side. Like those are,
Jaylon, don't talk so much.
I can't.
What does our future legislator have to say?
I'm sorry, Peter?
What does our future legislator have to say about all this?
I think it would be helpful to have as many links as you can on your own personal website. I am concerned about handing up pamphlets. I have the same problem with a whole bunch of links and people actually accessing it. I am curious how the businesses are doing. I wonder if you would, would a Survey Monkey be helpful? Are there email addresses on that list?
Almost none.
So maybe actually, if the police officers could collect email addresses,
Absolutely.
maybe that would be an easier way to communicate with the businesses if they're interested.
Okay.
I love the idea of getting as much information as possible. I'm not optimistic that the police team is going to have the time to be able to collect it, but that would be wonderful.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea too, but I don't know that they're going to successfully get.
I mean, it's not that difficult to get 4 pieces of information: name, email, phone, and company name. That's 4 pieces of information. That's pretty easy.
I mean, if they can get a phone number and an email address, we can send them a generic email extending the help, and then collect the rest of the information.
So here's our list, and I don't see any emails.
There aren't any on that list.
And I've been asking Eloise and James, those are the town clerks, Jaylon, to retrieve email addresses when people file stuff, and I'm not having much luck.
Oh.
I mean, the truth is, again, businesses don't necessarily want to talk to towns, it's not surprising,
All right, well, look, I think we've chatted this up enough. It sounds like Keith might be willing to rework it, hack it up.
I'm going to contact all the essential businesses, and you mean hacking up this? Yeah, I'm willing to.
Handout.
I'll cut it down, and then you can add what you want later. But,
All right. All right, so we'll work on that offline. Everybody's, the 4 of us are in agreement to do that.
I mean, I feel like that's
so the marching orders are create a handout, get information. I'll interface with the police and/or Margaret, and then are we all okay with rotating if we get a glut of inquiries for help? Are we all okay?
So I will say I'm not okay with that, because unlike Keith, I have not studied this even for 5 minutes, never mind 5 weeks. And for me to be helpful to any small business person, other than to tell them to call Keith, for example, or Jeff, I'm not ready and I don't have the time to spend to become useful, other than relay that information. And maybe Jason, you might know too. And Peter, perhaps you do as well. You're a small business owner, but I know the least about all this stuff.
I mean,
How do we
I just would
handle
like
that?
to reiterate that the only advice I'm telling people is to contact their bank. But
Yeah.
before we stress over, how much work that we're going to have to divide amongst ourselves, let's just get to that point anyways. I don't think
I
it's
agree.
possible that we can handle it all just with one or two of us. I would like to maybe, instead of just Peter and I going off on this, how do you guys feel about, instead of waiting a month to meet again, just sort of maybe have another emergency meeting where the four of us can converse, and maybe in the beginning of next, what is today? Today's what?
But about what?
About
About
this
this?
flyer and these lists? Do we need to, or we think we
No,
can?
no, we can do this alone. And it wouldn't be just the four of us. The public must be invited. No. We can do this alone. I'm sure. I know Jason's nervous about letting you and me at it, but I think Paul and Jason would be fine with that. Am I right?
I'm
I
fine
don't
with
get nervous.
I'm
that. Not
nervous.
anymore.
All right,
Right.
let's do that then. But I still think, I mean, I guess we can see what happens.
I mean, you and I, you will recreate, we'll collaborate, we'll get a piece of paper in the hands of the police and move on from there.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Jason and Paul?
Yes, it's fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Will someone send me this list anyways, or whatever list, all the lists you have would be great, but definitely at least this one would be
I'll
wonderful.
send that to you.
Great.
Yeah. So let's pick another date for our next meeting. What someone's fancy.
Well, I'm wide open in May, so help yourself, gentlemen.
So Jalen, you can see how not to run a meeting. Watch this one.
No, this is great. This has been very informative. So thank you for letting me stay on. And Northborough doesn't have a EDC program, so this has actually been very helpful. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad
So
you're
much.
enjoying yourself.
Did they have one and they figured out it caused more harm than good and got rid of it?
Attaboy, Keith.
That I don't know. I'll have to find out.
I believe we actually did have one, but it doesn't meet as often.
Jeff, are there any other groups that you know of that meet to, because we're all, trying to target the same businesses in town here. It sounds like you know more about them than we do, or I do at least.
I agree with you, Keith.
So some of the chambers have some very good information as well. I know the Assabet Valley Chamber out of Hudson and the Neshoba Valley Chamber out of Devens both send lots of updates with information as things change. So they would be good resources to contact. I'm sure there are other chambers as well. Those are just the two I know that cover this region. And then I'm on the email list for.
advice, And Jeff, you've got an ear to the ground too. So if you hear of any businesses that are struggling, you of course can invite them to, meet the friendly EDC team, right?
Sure.
How's Tuesday, the 19th work?
Good for me.
Depends on the tides.
Depends on the tides.
Yeah, I might be fishing. But it's fine. Tuesday the 19th is fine.
Can we refrain from Tuesdays because there's a lot of other meetings that night? Would Wednesday or Thursday, the 20th or 21st, be any more inconvenient or convenient?
I can do Thursdays.
Paul and Keith, would that?
I can do Thursdays.
So the
Thursday,
21st.
21st?
Okay.
I can do Mondays too.
Let's go with Thursday. Oh, I should tell you guys that the town has got, you may have read this in some correspondence, 2 Zoom accounts. So the maximum number of meetings we can have, Keith knows this, is 2 meetings at one time. It could be EDC and Board of Selectmen, it could be Conservation Commission and FinCom, but not more. We had to get special permission to use Keith's account for this. So we may be preempted in whatever date we pick, but.
So we might want to pick two dates, a backup date. We'll do the 21st. Thursday, the 21st is our first choice. And then what would be a second choice?
How about the 28th?
Okay. Well, except I'm sure it's a night. Oh, no, maybe not. You're right. Okay. 21st or 28th. Gotcha.
At 6 PM, everybody still likes that?
Sure thing.
Okay. All right. Shall we adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
I think we have to have a roll call, don't we?
Yeah. Paul, are you in favor?
I am.
Jason?